And we are live. All right. Hey guys, been a while. Coming back at you with a little tasty breakdown of UFC 231. Um, First, we're going to cover some news. A little bit of breaking news that I find slightly interesting because I'm a little bit superstitious when it comes to MMA. Uh, and it's kind of ironic. UFC is making TJ versus Cejudo, but they're not making it on a pay-per-view card. Get this, they're making it on ESPN Plus. That's going to be their debuting fight. And if anyone remembers when Fox and UFC partnered up and UFC first debuted on Fox, they did a whole card on Facebook, dedicated a full hour to build it up, and then Kane gets starched in like 30 seconds.
it was fucking trash. I was
It
so upset
was
too.
like they had these amazing fights on Facebook, and then Kane gets starched in 30 seconds. So I'm superstitious, and I think that we're possibly looking at an upset of the year. So, which is kind of a bummer because the UFC's already stated that they're scrapping 125. So this is supposed to be the nail in the coffin of 125, but this is MMA, so you can't really bet on anything for sure. Um, Another interesting thing that's come up that I find personally interesting and I think is kind of a harbinger or forewarning for Paige Van Zant is the fact that when Sage Northcutt came up to the end of his contract, the UFC let him go.
Yeah, they're getting rid of their young hype that's not living up to hype. And I mean, honestly, he's doing more than she is.
Yeah.
He probably still deserves to be in there. He's winning more than some of the people are winning too.
He honestly hasn't looked as sharp as he should be at that level. But the thing is, he's been coming along, and since he moved to Team Alpha Male, I think that's been the biggest game changer for Sage. Is that move to Team Alpha Male? He's under an extremely experienced coaching crew, and he has Uriah Faber take him under his wing. And as we know, when that happens, guys usually really bloom.
Yeah,
Um,
and he's actually being pushed there because we all know when he was up in Canada training, his dad wasn't allowing them to really push him because he didn't want to get hurt.
no, no, not at all. But the flip side is Chantry Setyundong, the pretty much the Dana White to won championships, has stepped up and signed Sage Northcutt, which I think is probably the best thing for him at this point because I think that if he goes to Bellator, it's not going to be as good a look if he loses somehow at some point. If he goes into ONE FC, I hate saying this, but there's not as many talented dudes as you're seeing stateside. Um, Pretty much a bunch of scrubby ass dudes, maybe a few good sambo guys in there, but he's gonna be able to get his feet wet and still get those reps in, still get those fights and get the experience. I mean, bearing in mind he's in his early 20s, so this isn't gonna be too big of a hit for him.
Yeah, and the ONE FC, I mean, it's really hype over on that side of the world, but so it's good for the UFC because first of all, if he goes to Bellator, that's a problem for the UFC because that's a rival. But over in ONE FC, like they're not really rivals, they've worked together. Obviously, there was a huge trade with Ben Askren and Mighty Mouse. And over
Yeah,
there, like if he loses to these kind of experienced people in a big league, that kind of hype like doesn't get killed here in the US so much. So he can lose a
yeah.
few fights and still end up coming back, and those won't be a mark on him to the kind of mainstream people.
Yeah, and I also think I mean, he was still earning quite a bit in the UFC. I think he was getting 50-50, like
Yeah.
50K to show, 50K to win, or some crazy thing like that. But I think he's also going to really expand his earnings by going to ONE FC. But that's enough news. Time to get into it. This card is insanely stacked. A few of the fights that really stick out to me on the prelims I think we should touch on is the first one, Eric Anders versus Elias Theodorou. Any hardcores know that Elias Theodoro's been grinding along, put himself together a surprising win streak, and Eric Anders has slowly become the guy for the company. He had that crazy knockout over Tim Williams, and then he went and had that like crazy 4 round brawl with Thiago Santos before he was finally stopped.
Yeah.
So I think Anders has a lot of potential, but style versus style, I think this is gonna be his. Aside from the Sanos fight, like that was an interesting style matchup, but he came in late, didn't have the best camp or anything. But with this fight, I think he's really going to be pushed in the sense that Theodore loves the grind. He embraces the grind. I can't watch him because he grinds too much. Like against Dan Kelly, like Dan Kelly was coming off that knockout loss to fucking Brunson. So the fact that he just like ground him out like he was a dangerous fight, I'm like, oh come on, Elias. At least try and push some sort of advantage over him.
Right.
But
Some
Eric
people
Anders,
gonna do.
yeah, Eric Anders, I think he poses a lot of problems for Theodoro in the sense that Theodoro loves a clinch, and Anders is good at breaking out of the clinch with elbows and using the underhook and forearm crossface to land knees. Like those are two things he excels at. So I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. I would pick if I was to pick a winner, Eric Anders by split decision. I think
Yeah.
Elias isn't going to make it easy, but Anders has the power, the striking, and the pressure to make Elias fight and keep him on the back foot a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, Eric Anders, he's extremely explosive, extremely athletic, and we've seen stuff like this before, but he kind of brings a more unique touch to it, and that's going to be super awesome to watch, and it has been super awesome to watch. Your boy is just great, but
Yeah.
we see this before, and a lot of times these guys, crazy athletic guys, and he's athletic for obvious reasons, anyone that's followed his career,
Yeah.
but they come up against someone who grinds and just uses that grinding technique. And a lot of times it can really kill the hype. But yeah, I think
Mhm.
that clinch, his ability to kind of throw those strikes and that clinch work and dirty box a little better than some of those other guys will kind of throw Elias off and kind of cause Elias to back up and be more hesitant. So I truly do think that Eric Anders is going to bring this to a decision. And who knows? I mean, he could even rock Elias and take him out. But I think it's going to definitely throw Elias off to have someone that's going to be able to strike from the inside the way Eric can.
Yeah. Um, God, I just want to say this because I hate her and we're not going to talk about it. But Caitlin Shakagian's on the goddamn card.
Against Spy.
Oh my God. See, I really hope I wins that one. We're not even going to talk about it because I'll go to sleep thinking about her. Um, the second one out of the prelims, which I can't believe this is how crazy stacked the card is, that this is a prelim fight, is Gilbert Burns versus Olivier Alba Mercier.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is going to be a crazy fight. Alba Mercier is a very technical guy who likes to work behind his jab, solid wrestling. He can finish you with interesting strikes. Like I think it was Evan Dunham. He stopped with like a knee to the body, and like I don't think he's ever pulled off something like that. Gilbert Burns on the flip side, insane jiu-jitsu, and for Brazilian, he is black explosive as hell. Like he
Yeah.
can throw hammers straight out of Rio. So uh, I think this is gonna be a fight of the night for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be fireworks. I mean, looking at it on paper, they've got really similar stats to like in a lot of areas. Of course, significant strikes definitely goes to Olivier, but I mean, grappling, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on Burns' side is great. His takedown accuracy is not, though, compared to Mercier's takedown defense. So that's going to, I think, kind of be what really brings, in my opinion, Mercier to the front running of that fight.
Yeah, I think to counter that though, Gilbert Burns I think holds the record for most submissions by armbar in lightweight.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you add in those two things that Mercier is a really good wrestler, knows how to use his wrestling to win rounds, beat them up, take the gas out of them, break their will. But Gilbert Burns is just as good off his back as he is on top. He can submit you pretty much from almost anywhere if he gets a hold of your arm. Uh,
yeah,
so it's going to be a tough fight for me to pick, but I think that if Burns isn't on his P's and Q's, Mercier is for sure going to just wrestle the hell out of him and beat him up in the clinch and make it a rough night for Burns. But if Burns is coming back in full form, because both guys are coming off a loss, and lightweight is insanely competitive. Uh, Although Gilbert Burns was knocked out, I think if he comes back throwing heat, looking to prove something, there's a high chance of him catching Mercier. High
oh,
chance, because the dude can like crack.
yeah. It's such an interesting fight, and I mean, I think Mercier obviously, he's got the more technical striking, but looking at it, Burns has a lot more knockout. I mean, not a lot more, but Mercier isn't a power hitter. He doesn't knock people out. What's odd is Mercier actually has a better submission ratio than Burns does, but again, that's just because Burns has the ability to finish people with punches, that Mercier doesn't quite have. But yeah, no, just the way they are on paper, style wise, it's going to be super interesting to watch that and see like how each one contrasts the other with their skills.
Yeah, like he's more of a submission guy, which is why I think that crazy knockout when he's ever the only one on his record came kind of easily for him because he was using the wrestling to set up a lot of his strikes. So with fake shots, get Dunham to sprawl and start him to think about the shot, and then he'd come upstairs and crack him. So I think that if he keeps working like that, we could see a Mercier by TKO. Um, so hopping over to the main card, fireworks like UFC just wants to kill us, don't they? Because we're getting Thiago Santos versus Manoa, and holy crap, this is going to be a crazy fight.
Yeah, if someone doesn't get knocked out or finished at all in that fight, I'm going to be pretty blown away.
Yeah, if this fight turns into a sleeper, I'm gonna like cry. Uh, I doubt it though because Thiago Santos is a sledgehammer. He brings the fucking pain, as corny as it sounds, but he does. Like he's a guy that will once he has you hurt, he will not stop until he puts you away.
Yeah, he's mean. I mean, you see it when he walks out, you see it when he's fighting. He's just mean. He's not a merciless guy. But
Oh,
Jimmy, too.
um,
Jimmy is
Manoa.
house.
Yeah, both dudes can put you to sleep. I think the thing is though that Sanos has more weapons than Manoa.
Yeah.
And Manoa is the kind of guy who doesn't deal like I'm not saying he has a bad chin, but when he gets cracked and put on the back foot, he tends to be more susceptible to a finish. Like
Yeah.
when um oh god, who was it? I think it was against Ozdemir. Ozdemir like put him on the back foot and caught him with that shot up like that funky uppercut, and it was like over for Manoa. Um, so for me, I would take Thiago Santos KO or TKO, either late round one or early round two.
Yeah, for me, again, I just think uh, Thiago's just got more tools. Jimmy, I mean, if he's not getting that huge punch, he doesn't have a good ratio for when he doesn't land that knockout punch. That's when you start seeing him more in the losing bracket, is when he's not landing that. And Tiago's got enough tools that he's able to keep that away, and he's strong enough that he might be able to keep Jimmy hesitant, and honestly, like it'll be a good fight. I can't wait. Sanos is probably going to land more. Manuel's going to wait for that big punch. He's going to kind of sit back, I believe, and he
Yeah.
absorbs a lot more punches. And you don't want to absorb the punches from Sanos, who's got a lot better striking defense, in my opinion, than Manuel does.
And his kicks too. Like the dude throws wheel kicks to the head, to the body. He throws all kinds of just crazy kicks for a dude that big. Like I've never seen someone throw kicks at his size like that.
Yeah.
Like it's very rare you see someone with that kind of leg dexterity. But you're 100% correct. Mano is the kind of guy who likes to take his time, feel you out. I think it was after he lost to Johnson, he had that fight against Corey Anderson. And Corey Anderson had like I think he knocked out Sean O'Connell or just beat the piss out of Sean O'Connell
Yeah.
and was pushed up to a main event with Manoa. And Corey is kind of the dude who will like to feel you out and look for those like strikes to take downs. That kind of he's like a bigger Rashad Evans in that sense. Well, Manoa, because of that, it played right into his hands in the sense that he likes to wait, find that right knockout spot, and then blast you.
Yeah.
And that's what he did to Anderson. But the flip side is that Thiago is not going to let uh, Manoa settle in, find his range, find his rhythm, and set up the big knockout shot.
No.
Um, and then Johanna Jędrzejczyk versus Valentina Shevchenko, where like that fight, I okay. So the thing about both fighters is they're extremely good fighters, and when the opponent plays into their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
When the opponent plays in their strengths, that's when they look like they can beat anyone in the world. I hate saying that because it makes him sound bad, but no, like Johanna Jędrzejczyk has probably one of the best jabs and had one of the best jabs at 125. But the thing is, though, a lot of these girls were trying to pressure Jędrzejczyk, so they were running into her jab, and they were basically getting themselves beat up because they played right into Jędrzejczyk's game. When she fought Rose, everyone's like, "Oh, she's done, she's cooked." Da da da. No, Rose was just not standing there letting Jędrzejczyk punch her in the face. She was
Yeah.
using head movements, feints, slips, using very educated striking game. So that caused Jędrzejczyk to start getting sloppy, overcommitting with the punches, and that's how she got knocked out in the first round, or first fight. Uh, with Shevchenko, though, she really shines when someone tries to put that pressure on her. She can, you know, really catch people, not like knock them out or in that sort of catching them, but she can catch them and start racking up points with her check left hook, with a lot of her kicks and striking, like the low kicks and spin to the body. A lot of those like flashy kicks she tries to pull off. But the flip side is if you're not giving her something to work against or to set up her strikes against, she will just coast. She'll throw a
Yep.
check left hook, maybe a low kick, uh, jab to the body, uh, but she will not really engage. Like the striking stats against Holly Holm probably landed more strikes, but she didn't land like Holly Holm threw more strikes, but didn't land as clean. Where Shevchenko threw very few strikes throughout the 5 rounds, but still like made them count. So I mean that kind of style I don't think is going to work too well against Jędrzejczyk because she's really evolved into using her jab, using her range, and also her the like as some people call it the flappy hands
Mm.
to a low kick That is like her bread and butter. And I think if she gets Valentina biting on those, beats up her legs in the first 2 rounds, she's gonna have Shevchenko getting more desperate, looking for takedowns. Um, I think where it's gonna be decided is the clinch, for sure. Like that's where the biggest X factor is because Jacek is really good in the clinch, but so is Shevchenko.
Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting. I mean, they both have very like obvious keys to victory. There's obviously a lot of history between these two, even though it wasn't mixed martial arts. That history is still there, and that might play a mental game. It's you can't really compare the fights though because
No.
it's Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. We've seen a lot of amazing champion kickboxers or Muay Thai fighters come in to mixed martial arts and look like complete crap and get knocked out by someone who's half a striker that they are, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously just things are different. Yana's a little smaller, so that's kind of something for her. I think her key to victory, yeah, is going to be to keep pumping that jab and make sure she's landing that. And when she's actually going in and landing strikes, and I'm not saying she does this because, I mean, she's got, I think, over 6 strikes per minute on average. So she obviously lands above average when it comes to strikes. But definitely her key to victory, as far as like when she's throwing those big strikes, is to not just throw that one big strike. You know, she's going to want to be able
Yeah.
to combos and kind of push that pace that she does into those later rounds that she's phenomenal at doing. Like she can be losing, she can be rocked half to hell, and somehow in those late rounds she pushes the pace like no other. But Valentina's going to want to throw those feints and keep faking stuff and kind of throw you on off her game. I don't know if she's going to be able to do it this time, though.
Yeah. I think 125 is going to be a lot better for young Jacek. I think she's going
Mhm.
to be a little more. She's going to have. I'm not saying she's going to turn into a Mike Tyson, but I think she's going to have a little more pop behind her punches. She's going
Yeah.
to have a little. I think she's going to have a stronger gas tank, a stronger chin, like all like everything that she kind of like those little small holes in her game. I think they're not going to be as prevalent at 125 because she's not going to be as drawn out, as
Yeah.
exhausted, as fatigued.
I'm
Like I don't care
gonna,
how well her weight cut has gone to 115 every time. You're still like everything is not as sharp as it would be if you were just going in at your walk around weight or cutting just a few pounds.
right. Yeah, I definitely think she's going to have a really good speed advantage. Maybe not crazy, but it's going to be there. And again, when she's pumping those jabs and those low kicks from the outside, it's really going to show because she's going to be able to stick and move and keep the strikes off of her. So that, I mean, it should be a fun fight to watch. Hopefully it is, but you know, this is also one of those fights where both of them could just be trying to counter strike each other. And
Yeah,
so this one of a lot of the fights has one of the biggest potentials to be just a complete dud, but I hope it isn't.
I think Young Jacek is gonna come in with a big fire and insider because she had those 2 losses to Rose. The first one was like a debatable loss. The second one was almost like, yeah, Rose is the better fighter. Like that's just the way it is. Like 9 times out of 10, Johanna Jacek will rip through the division, but she's still going to have problems with Rose because it's just one of those things where, like, you know, Chris Weidman was, Anderson Silva's like kryptonite.
Kryptonite. Yep.
Yeah. And so I look at it the same way with Rose and Jacek. Like, their styles are so opposing that, like, everything Jacek wants the opponent to do is everything Rose doesn't do.
Hmm.
So, and the thing is though, like Jacek, I think she really carved out a place in MMA history at 115. Like
Oh yeah.
you can't deny that she went on a really good run, and I think she fought stiffer competition than Ronda Rousey did.
Yeah, yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I mean, she went on a complete tear. It was amazing to watch. It was badass to watch. But
Dude,
and it wasn't as shallow a division as 135
No.
was when Rousey was ruling. Nothing against Rousey, nothing against some of the top fighters then, but it they really just don't come as good. Like it's not as stacked as the 115-pound was, and that's just
Yeah.
because more ladies tend to be smaller.
Yeah. Like 125 has a lot of 135ers dropping down into it because they had smaller frames.
Yeah.
Like they were too small for